It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining for me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
I paid my electric bill. Shit. I don't know.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, is it sad I had to stop and think a minute? What?
And then the light bulb goes above the head. So sorry.
Because I paid my light bill, too.
Good to have you back, Les.
Welcome back, Les. Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? Follow that up.
Well, it's fun because I've been kind of busy this week, but it's stuff I'm not going to talk about yet. I am doing prep work for October. I am watching things. I'm reading things. I'm listening to things.
Dun, dun, dun.
October should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Long-time listeners will understand. If they
Are
remember.
those who have been binging on our episodes recently probably have figured out what we do in October? So yeah.
Yeah, there's been a good bit of that too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Welcome.
Yep. You go, you.
No, don't go. Stay. Stay here.
Stay, yeah. Stay, listen.
You mean way to go, you.
There you go.
Sounds good.
Well, golly. I really don't have a lot to talk about this week. We'd probably run off those people who are
Hey, no rant this week. Woo-hoo.
Yep. So I'll just take this moment to say, people out there, check on your friends, even the ones that they always say, I'm okay and I'm fine. They're not. So, and you too. Everybody needs just to take a break, turn the TVs off, the internet off, and go pet a puppy. So, yay. That's my PSA for the week.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff, real world, last couple weeks. Well, for a while, that just Yeah.
Well, and not only that, I think that's kind of compounded a lot of what's. I think people who even think that they can see this stuff and they're, oh, I'm okay. It's during the week, those little things that are being added on top of that you probably don't even notice. And so by the end of the week, you feel a little heavy. And that's why, So it's not just one thing. Just take a break. It'll be okay. Love always wins. And I'm still listening to Neil Gaiman, and that's like happy spot. So thank you, Mr. Gaiman.
There you go.
Yep.
I bet he doesn't hear that much.
Nope.
I mean, he hears the thank you part a lot, but I bet he doesn't hear the happy spot part nearly enough.
He's got that accent and that voice that, it's just real soothing.
Mm-hmm. He does
I
have
guess
a
he would be
voice.
the London Morgan Freeman.
Maybe he thinks that Morgan Freeman is the American Neil Gaiman.
Yep, that's true.
Probably.
Yep. Or maybe he doesn't realize that, and we should tell him he is. He should have done March of the Penguins.
It's not too late. They're rebooting everything in Hollywood right now. They could do a reboot of March of the Penguins with Neil Gaiman doing the narration. Why not?
Yeah. And I'm kind of surprised that The Lion King is doing as well as it's doing at the box office right now. Is anybody else kind of like, on that one too?
Yeah, I just saw a tweet from Kevin McGuire. He kind of chimed in on that because Variety apparently did a headline saying it's Disney's biggest live action film, and he's like, it's not live action.
Yeah.
It's CGI animals.
I don't get it. I watched the trailer, and of course everybody's like, ooh, this is my childhood, and I can share it with my kids, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, that was not my childhood. That wasn't your childhood either. But I think I said before, they kind of lost the magic that Disney puts into their movies, that a lion could talk and run around with a little warthog and meerkat. I mean, that was awesome. But then when you actually show us live animals that are stiff and no sparkle in their eyes, and yeah, they're singing, but there's no dance. It's kind of like that's what you added the Disney magic to, that you've. So yeah, I don't get it. So
here's a possible perspective. It's try to think of it this way. It's not aimed at you.
Yeah.
It wasn't ever really going to be aimed at you. What it's aimed at is people who were the age you were when you saw the first one. This is going to be their magical version of The Lion King, like the other one was for you. But that's okay. There's a bajillion kids out there who can enjoy this one as much as you enjoyed the first one. And it's okay. Disney makes a ton of money. And the deal is that those of us who saw the first one really don't friggin' have to be offended by the new one. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not intended to shit on anybody's childhood. It's just an attempt to keep Disney's just trying to keep themselves relevant and obviously make some money, and that's okay. That's what they're a big corporation. That's what they do. They own all movies at this point, just about. So let them have their thing. It's aimed at kids. Let the kids have fun with it, and don't worry about it.
Yeah. And it's not that I'm offended by it.
No. I didn't necessarily mean you specifically.
Yeah.
But
I just don't get it. And to me, it like I said, I think it takes all of the magic that Disney pumps into these movies. It's kind of like, what if we took all the magic out of Lion King? Ooh, ooh, ooh. CGI lions, yes. So, I mean, But with a cast like Beyonce, I mean, I knew it was going to do good, because even if you care nothing about lions and all that mess, you're going to go watch it for Beyonce. So maybe that's where some of the... Because I haven't seen a lot of kids. I work with kids that are like, oh, yeah, The Lion King was good. So I don't know. Who's watching it? But I did want to go see that Art of Racing in the Rain. They're expecting it to flop, and I hope it doesn't, because I think right now we need a really good, make you feel good story to do well. Just once, let's have this. So we shall see. I'll throw my money at it at least.
Right, and that's all you can do, really.
Yeah.
And I was too quick about the soapbox. Oh well.
Yeah, I was wondering how come I had to file the soapbox this week. But I got a bunch of nothing on this, guys. Sorry to say. Haven't done this that much this week, so not too in on anything. And I'll just pass it on to Thomas.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot going on this week, so there you go.
It being hot. God.
Oh, let's be surprised that it's hot in Texas in August. That'd be great. Can we do that? That'd be awesome.
I mean, I know it is, and it doesn't mean I have to like it, you know. But
What
just
a
remind
novel
you,
idea.
you crazies, I'm not a Texan, okay?
I didn't say anything about Texans. I said in Texas. You are in Texas.
Right.
Whether you claim it or not, that's where you live. This is not your first year in Texas.
No, it's not. And I am glad that it waited until now to get hot, because previous summers, this would be like the 30th day of triple digits, so.
Right. It could have been 100 degrees like May 15th instead of
Like it normally is.
the 1st of August.
So we're doing good.
Right.
Just once again, check on them girls. The heat, it makes us act weird, you know.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Never mind. Well, we did have our monthly meetup, and that was fun as always. I appreciate all who were able to attend. We have a new one coming out. The next one's going to be September 14th, I believe is the date.
15th.
No, it's the 14th.
It's 14th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 14th. So I'll go ahead and promote that a little bit since I've already mentioned it. We have it every second Saturday a month. And if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come on out, meet with us. We hang out at Wing City, which is located at 1456 Beltline Road, Suite 120 in Garland. And the zip is 75044. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of hang out with us and kind of discuss things that are going on in the world of geekdom, whether it's comics, movies, TV, books, streaming service, whatever. Just general chat, have some fun. It's always a blast. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and would like to come hang out with us, by all means, come on. More information's already been posted on the website, and that's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and a Facebook event has already been created. So go check out those for further information, and hope to see you there in September. Besides that, I've been kind of working on other fellowship-related stuff that I can't really go into right now. It's for stuff that's coming up down the road, so I hadn't had too much time to read or take in events, that kind of thing. So, oh well, maybe next week. Alrighty. For this week's discussion, we wanted to take some time and celebrate the 100th anniversary of I guess you'd call him a pulp hero. Wouldn't he qualify for that?
Yes.
Seems that way, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he really fits the definition. And the character I am talking about is Zorro. The Curse of the Capistrano, which is actually the serial story that was printed back in 1919, and I believe the magazine was All Story Weekly, and was eventually collected into a book. And that book landed in the hands of Douglas Fairbanks, and he says, "Oh, you got to do more of this, and I'm going to go ahead and make a movie out of it." And it kind of went from there. Several movies, a TV show, several different comic book series, a legendary character that's inspired several characters. I mean, Batman. You could see the influence of Zorro and Batman. So we want to just take some time and kind of talk about this character and and just kind of just to celebrate his birthday. So, who would like to go first?
I first found Zorro thanks to Walt Disney and the television series with Guy Williams. It's something that I ended up going back and reading some of the early stuff. And I was around 10 or 12 when I did that. The TV series had been around for several years. And this was the creation of the Disney group that gave you other fictional characters. And even some of them were real characters, bringing them to the screen, because you also had Daniel Boone, played by Fess Parker, and Swamp Fox, played by Leslie Nielsen. But this one had staying power. It was always interesting to me to see how they would give him the opportunity to defeat the evil that he faced. And it was, I kind of felt, please tell me if I'm incorrect in this, but I kind of felt that he was a version of Robin Hood.
Yeah, there's some parallels there for sure.
Yep.
To me, there was a lot of parallel to it. And the character himself was the foppish Don Diego, and to me, it was a strong character, although an episode was only a half hour long. But you got to see how he would defeat the others. I find that it's a current good read in the comics. He had appeared in comics in, I think it was the Dell form at one time, along with several Disney titles. But this one was not short of action by any means. The character was in constant movement, whether it be in thought process or in movement or physical movement. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't begrudge anybody for making another movie or another TV series or another 3-episode TV series or whatever it could be to get the character out there again and inform the people and see the delight in their eyes when something like this comes about.
Yeah, see, I would have thought that when was the Antonio Banderas movie?
Like 95, something like that.
98. Yeah. I would have thought that was successful enough that they could at least do something with it now. It seemed to do pretty well at the time. I don't know. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Oh, well, it did well enough for a sequel, and then the sequel didn't do as well, so they just kind of...
Yeah, the sequel wasn't as good.
Right.
But yeah, I remember catching reruns of the TV series too. That's probably my first exposure to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mine
pretty sure I've seen at least the first silent film, the first Fairbanks, the Marco Zorro, the first one. I think I've seen it. It's been a little while, but I think I've seen it. I like silent movies though, so I'm weird. But yeah, it's definitely got a lot of that Robin Hood flavor to him, with the whole fighting to protect the common man, the people around him. even if it's not in merry old England, it's in California or Mexico or wherever it ends up being based.
Right.
They're a little flexible with that. I actually also quite enjoyed the parody that came out back in the early 80s entitled Zorro the Gay Blade. That would have been my introduction to George Hamilton's career, which is interesting to say the least. He's done a lot of widely varied stuff. He even didn't he do some sort of Dracula parody as well?
Yeah, it was Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite, that's right. Yeah. Good sense of humor, that guy. And a great tan, of course. But anyway. He's one of those characters that's kind of, and for me, he's always kind of been around. And he pops up, and I'll watch it if it's on. I mean, I don't necessarily seek him out. I have seen a smattering of the comics that have come out with him. I think Dynamite did something a few years back. I kind of vaguely remember that. But yeah,
didn't they do it with like the Green Hornet or something? Wasn't it? Or
one of their crossovers? It might have been.
I think it was.
I know they did a crossover with the Django, and they're turning that into a movie.
Oh wow, cool.
That's cool.
I guess my introduction was the TV show as well with Guy Williams, and then followed by Zorro the Gay Blade, it's a funny movie. That's another one of those that's on the list that would not be made today.
Oh Lord, no.
But it is a funny film. And then followed by The Mark of Zorro, the 1940 film with Tyrone Power.
Yeah.
And Basil Rathbone. That was my introduction to Basil Rathbone.
Oh, really?
And then I found out that he did Sherlock Holmes. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, he did a lot of bad guys there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, after the Sherlock Holmes thing, or at least during. I mean,
well, it's probably a little of both, maybe. I don't know. I would have to look at
the dates, right?
The dates and all that. So,
but I mean, he was the bad guy in the Adventures of Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm. But I've always enjoyed the character. I thought it was kind of interesting. And just the different takes of Don Diego. You have one where he's just like he's just so disinterested in anything that's going on unless it really matters to him and that kind of thing. Then you have one who's maybe a little bit more, how do you want to say it? Maybe more maybe a little bit more concerned, but not enough to where he lets on that he is Zorro. So there's been several different kind of versions of Diego, and I kind of like that kind of different perspectives. And you definitely kind of get that. You can see how they did that with how Bob Kane, Bill Finger, and others kind of did that with Bruce. Not so much the just, I don't care about that. I'm a millionaire and this, that, and the other. It's just kind of the playboy image and maybe a little bit of philanthropist, but easy for me to say. But you say it. You say it, Mikey.
Philanthropist?
There you go.
Show off.
So, it's an interesting character.
Yep, you can also kind of see where he got, going the other direction, where he kind of, I don't want to say stole, but because I don't think that's the way that works, but clearly Zorro himself was inspired by the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Yep.
For those who have read that, which is probably not very many of us. Because that goes back a ways, and that's a little bit obscure, but it's an interesting story too. So
So you said that, and I imagined Daffy Duck as
the
what was
Scarlet
he?
Pumpernickel, yeah, absolutely, and rightly so. You should remember that because that was actually a pretty fun kind of retelling of that as well. I mean, kind of like when Daffy Duck was Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Very similar stuff there.
Mm. Well, I was also introduced to Zorro through the TV shows. I don't think I've read any of the older comics. I kind of looked through some of the newer stuff that came out, but yeah, I mean, Zorro was considered safe programming. So we could watch that one. But when we first moved to Oklahoma, I have 3 older sisters, by the way, and me and my sister next up from me in age are pretty close. And then there's another sister up from her, and then we have the oldest one. Well, the 2 middle children, we'll call them the middle children, they got into an argument one day, and they were fighting and everything else. So I come out there with my stick, and I'm like, I'm Zorro. I wind up, smacking her a little bit. I didn't hit her hard with that stick. I kind of smacked her a little bit. Well, this is my older sister. As a kid, I was anemic, so I was always, the frail one. Didn't have a lot of strength. So, long story short, she winds up tying me. She winds up tying me and my sister to the clothesline, and it's like beating us with a stick. Now I'm Zorro. I'm Zorro. Well, Michelle's not going to take that. I have plenty of scars on me from fighting with her as a child. So she winds up, I don't know how, I'm still pretty impressed, but she winds up getting free and getting that stick away to where we tied her up to the clothesline. And, we didn't hold back. She hit us pretty hard. So we're hitting her with the stick. We're Zorro. We're Zorro. So later on that night, the mayor of the town comes over, is going to introduce himself to us, wants to meet the 4 little preacher girls and everything else. And he proceeds to tell my dad the first way he saw us was me and Michelle beating the hell out of my sister, saying, I'm Zorro, I'm Zorro. So he didn't see the before part. He just saw us with the after part. But that's how the mayor met us. And so, he called me Little Zorro for the longest time. So I was Zorro, just so y'all know. But I always liked the character. He always did right the wrongs. But yeah, I mean, when I first hear Zorro, that, like I said, that will always be the first thing that pops into my mind is the mayor of Oklahoma down there thinks I'm Little Zorro.
The mayor of Oklahoma.
Well, of that little town. He thought he was going to meet these little sweet girls, and here we are beating the hell out of each other with sticks.
He just hoped you didn't turn it upon the rest of the population.
Right. But of course, when my sister retells the story, she will not tell you the part where she had us tied up. Just the part that she was tied up and that we took turns making Z's on her with the stick.
It's not a Z, it's a number 2.
That's kind of curly.
So, Tom, when you picked this topic, did you expect it to turn into therapy?
No, did y'all expect to interview Little Zorro?
I had no
I think
idea.
we just hit upon our title.
Yeah.
I think we've had several gems already. We're still going to have to choose, man. Just saying. Holy moly.
Looking at the author, Johnston McCulley, it's interesting to note that he wrote so many of the Zorro stories, but he also had other creations that he wrote stories for. And it's interesting to me. The man was born in 1883 and lived to be, 75? 75 years old.
Yeah.
And was active writing. And the list of characters were phenomenal, although they are not really known to most. But Macaulay also had set an arrangement with West Magazine to produce a new Zorro story for every issue. That's putting out a lot of material, because he did that for, gosh, how many years did he work with that part of it? That was through 1959 that he wrote. So he wrote for 40 years.
Dang.
And that's a lot of work right there. When you start saying November of 44, then it becomes just about every issue that he's got a new story in it. So to me, that is something. And to be able to carry that idea of a man that was, the character was educated in Spain and called to America by his father, who was based in California. And then all the stories that Macaulay had were in that state. That's a lot of stuff, and that's hard working, because at that time the magazine came out every other month. But if you have to do a short story every other month, and it's a wrap-up story, it's a one-and-done series for those short stories, that's a lot of stuff.
Yep, prolific dude.
It is.
And that's just the Zorro stuff. I mean, this guy's list of pseudonyms is ridiculously long too. So I mean, he's writing stuff all over the place in all kinds of different genres, and doing all of that with Zorro.
Yes.
It's wow, just dang. It's a lot. Pretty awesome.
What do you attribute to his popularity, or the fact that he's been around 100 years? Is it just the righting the wrongs and or what?
Oh, I suspect that's a lot of it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a really strong example of the fighting for the common man thing.
Didn't have to, but he does.
Right. I mean, he's like I said, he's rich and living a life of leisure and can do whatever he wants, and he chooses to go out and fight for what's right, and he's a kind of a classic hero in that regard. And the fact that obviously stories were being printed about him for, like Les said, 40 solid years. He was never really out of the public eye for very long during that time frame, for sure.
Right.
And since then, I mean, he pops up occasionally. It's not obviously not every year like that, but you get a movie every so often about him, or some sort of appearance in something. I mean, they did film serials through the 30s and 40s, and the TV series was in the 50s. You get movies. They did one in the mid 70s, or yeah. Well, they actually did a couple with Guy Williams in the late 50s, and then they do one in 74 with Frank Langella. and then the George Hamilton one comes out in the early '80s, and then you finally get an actual Latino star in the late '90s, which that's maybe a little better late than never, I guess. But so yeah, it's never really managed to fall too far out of the public eye. And that's not counting the European stuff. Good Lord, I just spotted that list. There's a list that's just ridiculous from the mid 20s all the way down into the 70s. This list is. It's crazy. There's a ton of European movies, mostly in Spain and Italy, obviously. But
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing that list too, and it's incredible.
yeah, I mean, so dude's never really been out of print. He's never been out of the spotlight. There's something going on somewhere. And I think, like you said, like we were saying, I think a lot of that is he's just kind of the quintessential hero, righting the wrongs, like you said.
Personally, I like the thought that they don't take him out of a time frame or an area. They don't try to modernize him, except for some of the later movies. But to me, you would keep this character in an area which would be viable for the public to see, something that they would understand in a time frame they would understand, and not they could gimmick it so easily by CGI and all of a sudden do a Zorro with the Wild Wild West movie version. And you're going, no, that would not work with this group.
Oh, please, God, don't do that.
That one was bad.
And because they took that TV series out of the time frame, heard it. But with Zorro, they have been able to maintain all the background, all the information that is noted and needed to make things proper. And to me, that's always been a strong point. It's like movies, well, Doc Savage was a spoof, but it was still within the time frame that they were depicting of the 30s. Unlike Green Hornet, which was totally out of whack. And I don't know about you folks, but I like the idea. Let's keep him within this time frame and make everything happen within a 10-year span or something, rather than vault him into the 21st century and take on automobiles and things like that. It's something that would not fit.
Well, you give them credit, but I know that at one time there was discussion of them doing a kind of a Zorro kind of in a futuristic, almost like a Mad Max kind of environment.
Oh God!
But it obviously never came about because we don't have the film. But I can't see that. I can't see that happening. And you're right. It's to the credit of whoever's behind whatever project, whether it's a novel or a TV series. There's been cartoons, movies that they keep it to that time frame, and I think that's cool.
Well, right, and I mean the deal is that for what the character is, for what Zorro is, I mean, he really is kind of a product of the situation in that time frame. If you want to do a Zorro-like character in a different time period, it's really not that hard to just create a new character.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be all that different. I mean, again, one of your prime examples, Batman. He very much especially in those early days, he was kind of a Zorro in a city similar to New York City, in a kind of indeterminate time frame that was relatively modern for late 20s, early 30s, and I mean even say 10 years in from that. So you create something different, and that's the deal. It's not that hard. You don't have to call it Zorro. You kind of don't need and I wish Hollywood would realize this at this point. You kind of don't need to call it Zorro just to have it sell like Zorro, regardless of whenever it's set. If you want to create something newer and put a different name on it. I mean, it can be similar and doesn't matter, you know? So yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's nice that they've sort of stayed true to the background a little bit. Much more so than they have with other type quote unquote franchises. Wow.
Okay.
There was a Commodore 64 game. That's interesting.
For Zorro?
Yeah, there's a list of video games. I mean, it's not a huge list, obviously, but yeah, there was one that was on Apple II and Commodore 64 in 1985. There's a PC game in 95, a Game Boy game in 99. There was a Wii game 10 years ago.
Huh. That's cool. I didn't know that. For some reason, I think Pitfall, when you said Commodore, I mean, real pixelated and...
Yeah, that's what they all looked like. It wasn't just that one.
Yeah. But instead of in the jungle in the desert. I see, I think I was thinking Green Hornet earlier, but wasn't it the Lone Ranger comic that he was in?
Oh, maybe.
Or it could have been both. But I had a little guy next door from the shop, and he loved Zorro. He could tell you the name of the guy and all the movies that he played in, and I mean, just really, really loved Zorro. So when the comic book came out, it was like, yes. Because he liked the older actors and stuff. But I'm wanting to say it was the Lone Ranger he was with. Because he had to tell me, no, they didn't act together.
Right, that would have been a slightly different time frame, I think. I want to say Lone Ranger would have been a bit later. I could totally be crazy and wrong, but I don't know that there is I haven't read the original story, so I don't know if there's a date set in there. But.
Les, do you know?
The Lone Ranger was set after the Civil War.
Yeah, see, and I would have thought that Zorro would have been set before.
Yes.
Because California was still Spanish.
That's true.
And by the Civil War, they were already a state, I believe, or they released a territory.
Yeah, I believe so.
That doesn't mean there wasn't a comic starring both of them, but
yeah,
it just would have been.
That was on Dynamite in 2011.
Yeah.
See, I'm wondering, would they bring Zorro to Lone Ranger's time, or would they take Lone Ranger to Zorro's time? Because you guys, you're right. They were different times.
Well, we can... I was just going to say we can ask our time travel expert, Mike Stepanov.
I was just getting ready to say that in a world where you can team up Red Sonja, Vampirella, and Betty and Veronica, screw timelines. You can do whatever the hell you want. It's a story.
Yep. Good point.
When you can team up the Avengers with Conan, yeah, do whatever the hell you want.
Right. I mean, hell, and then there was the Pathfinder series a couple of years ago where they took, they had a whole bunch of, they had their Pathfinder characters and then a whole bunch of the pulp characters like Red Sonja and Tarzan and John Carter and just all of that stuff just all mishmashed up. And it was fun. So tell your story and don't worry about all that stuff.
So the way they handled it was that Zorro's death, inspired a young Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So he helps the Native Americans that Zorro was trying to help that he died helping. So, in case y'all were wondering.
Yeah. Picking it up,
So it's
helping out.
kind of the same time frame. Well, actually, I guess that would be bringing Lone Ranger to his.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be interested in going back and seeing some of the old stories that Macaulay wrote, honestly.
Yeah.
I wish someone had done a collection of them.
Yeah.
Well, you would think something like that would have been done now. It seems like there's no kind of celebration for the, it's a centennial of the creation of the character, and there really hadn't been anything about it, other than some stuff being posted on social media. That seems kind of strange, but
Yeah.
Well, and it looks like the last, at least comic, was last year from American Mythology. So,
right.
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have anything planned.
I don't know. It just seems like a missed opportunity, but
Does.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, hell, do a marathon of some of the movies anyway, and
right.
just do it
Say
around.
the Turner Movie Channel might.
They might.
Usually I usually check that kind of thing out, and I forgot to do that for this show.
I mean, if nothing else, we could. Let's find somebody to pitch it to and get it done to coincide with the 100 years from the release of the movie.
Right.
Next year. I don't know. Who knows somebody at Alamo Drafthouse? I mean, hell, it's the kind of thing they do anyway, right?
Hey, Les. You're up there enough. You know everybody. I guess you can talk to them.
I may just do that.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
No, you're right.
They are not doing anything.
According to our old friend Google.
I searched the TV guide.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up and take a quick break?
Yeah, there's some fun stuff out there to check out. I mean, find some of those old movies, find the old Guy Williams TV series. Like I said, the first Antonio Banderas one is actually pretty good. So
it's a fun. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
it is an entertaining movie, if nothing else. It's not real deep, but it doesn't have to be. It's an action movie.
It's a popcorn movie,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever seen the Frank Langella version.
I didn't know there was one until.
Yeah.
So I know I haven't.
And there are some in Amazon Prime. Some of the Zorros.
Oh, cool.
So.
Have to check that out.
Yep. Alrighty. On that note, we are going to take a quick break and come back with our weekly pick. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off this week is Mike.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. I'm leading off. So my first pick is from Zenoscope, and I am looking forward to Van Helsing versus Dracula's Daughter #1. I don't know how much I really need to sell this beyond the title because, I was hooked right from the title. I've always kind of liked Liesl Van Helsing, and to see she's a vampire hunter, so not surprising there. But I'm curious to see what their take on Dracula's Daughter is going to be. But otherwise, man, I'm pretty much hooked right off the bat, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Does sound cool.
It does.
Should be interesting, definitely. I am next, and so for my first pick, it's a new book from Black Box Comics called Psycho List. And the premise is about a former FBI agent who becomes a therapist. But apparently he has problems trying to stay out of his patients' lives. So when the FBI calls him back for a special case, okay. This sounds kind of interesting. It's written by Kevin Grievix, who's written he's written some comics. He is if I'm not mistaken, he is the one who wrote the original Underworld film and was starred in it as well, or he was in the film. So, and it's Jonathan Lau doing the art, which I'm familiar. You may be familiar with his work from $6 Million Man for Dynamite Comics. So, sounds like a kind of interesting concept. We'll see how it goes.
Could be fun.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Les.
My first choice comes from American Gothic Press. It is Monster World: The Golden Age #2. I don't know, did we speak of this before, this title?
It sounds like the kind of title you'd bring up.
Well, if not, then shame on me, because this sounds really nice. A man, Hank Barrymore, is at the Conway Farm in Oklahoma. But it's the only farm still standing in the entire area because a bereaved magi has cursed the area, and he also wields 2 demon dogs. Now, the adopted son of the Conway family, the owners of the farm, has managed to keep this magician at bay, but with Barrymore bringing news about Cole's real parentage, it seems that the farm and also Hank are doomed. This one intrigues me just on the concept of, well, I'm sorry, it's just so many levels. And to hopefully bring this all together and make it totally interesting is really something I look forward to.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
That is interesting.
Sounds like a cool idea.
Yep. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my first pick, it's one out of Marvel. It's going to be the Deadpool annual. This one sounds like a really cute story. Little Quincy, 8-year-old kid, is plagued with bad dreams. So he puts it out there that he'll give somebody a whole $7 if they can make his bad dreams stop. So that being more money than Deadpool has ever seen. of course, he's going to go on the mission. So he's going to go fight Nightmare himself to earn $7 and help this little kid out. So I said, kind of cute. I'm picturing a kind of fantasy dream world that he's going to go to, you know, the one that he's always living in. So should be a cute one. If for nothing else, the pink unicorn on the cover. That's awesome.
That's hard to fight. That for sure. That is a powerfully curious image,
Yes.
to say
Yep.
the least.
Especially with Nightmare in the background there.
Yeah. Sounds like
I'm
fun.
just wondering if he's going to suffer from Deadpool in his head.
The 8-year-old?
Yeah, will this
Probably.
bring bad dreams or what?
Hopefully it'll end it. But no,
Oh, yeah.
probably, because nothing he ever does is sweet and cute. But I don't know if this is done in his head or in like a dream world. So,
Or if there's a difference.
yeah, that's true. Huh. Should be interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
agreed.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, I'm up again, and my second pick is a collection from Rebellion, which is kind of the publishing arm of 2000 AD. And Rebellion is doing one of their digests, and this one is the Best of Steel Commando. And this is just a cool concept that I kind of wish I had heard of years ago. So the Steel Commando was created, well, the story was created in like the early 70s. But the character is essentially a robot created by British scientists in World War II. And which is all well and good. It's like this great fighting machine, except for one small catch. And that catch is that he only takes orders from Ernie, who is the laziest soldier in the British Army. So, this just sounds like fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a war comic, but it sounds like it's got a really cool twist in it, and I like I said, I kind of wish I had seen this one before. So I'm going to check this one out.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Fun read. There's the possibilities could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm in on that.
Yep.
Alrighty, I am up next, and for my second choice, I'm going with a new book from Aftershock Comics, written and illustrated by Wando. It's called Bad Reception, and it is a story about a celebrity wedding which is happening on a remote location where there's absolutely no access to anything. So no cell phones, no Wi-Fi, obviously no media, nothing. That way, so the wedding can take place in peace. Well, here's the problem. The guests start getting murdered one by one. And the victims are branded with a hashtag. So it's not only is it a slasher horror type book, it's supposed to be a what they call, according to the synopsis, a quote satirical critique on society's obsession with technology, social media, and the cult of celebrity. I'm in.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, you had me at mass murder, so.
There you go.
At a celebrity
Anytime you
wedding.
can slam the Kardashian, I'm in.
Right.
Ooh, dang.
I was about to say, didn't she just load off on a plane for her little birthday getaway? Y'all don't know that.
Why the hell would we
You're
know
right.
that? Come on now. Seriously?
Even if we knew that, you think we would admit that we
There's, There's no way in hell we would own up to that. Jeez.
I follow different people on Twitter. I shouldn't know that.
No, you shouldn't.
Alrighty, Les.
Okay, coming from IDW Publishing is Corto Maltese, The Early Years. In this, you have small adventures telling the backstory of Corto Maltese and his first meeting with Rasputin at the end of the Russo-Japanese War. And these stories will tell you, like it says, the background for the 18-year-old Corto, but there are more than just stories about these two. And in this, you get to see what the thought process was for Hugo Pratt, the author and artist. Pratt did one of the real good titles for one of the big publishing companies. He did for DC. He did the World War I pilot. Help me here. Pardon me?
Enemy Ace?
Yes. He did the Enemy Ace book years ago, and it was exquisite. And seeing the work of Pratt in these Corto Maltese stories is really something to behold. So I'm in on this just for the thought of reading the early stuff and possibly catching up on the later.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, it's another cute one. This one is out of Image Comics, and it's called Pretty Violent. This will follow Gamma Ray, and she's pretty strong, but she wants to become a superhero. But her brothers are superhero killers, so there may be a little hitch in her plan there. I've been checking out some of the artwork and stuff in this one, and it's going to be a really cute story. The artwork kind of fits the cutesy but gory tone. Kind of put me in the mind of I Hate Fairyland, as well it should, because Jason Young is the writer on this one. So if you're, here's another one. If you're missing a little place where that used to be, this could be the filler for that cute, gory kind of thing you're looking for. So, like I said, it should be pretty good. Cute story, cute artwork. And I don't know, to me it kind of, when I was reading about what it was about and, her little backstory and stuff, do you guys remember Super Zero? That I think of Amanda Connor and I can't remember who did that with her. But it was a girl who was trying to recreate that one moment when you become a superhero. And she just so bad wants to be a superhero. So to me, it kind of reminds me of her, but this girl's got a little bit of strength behind her. So.
Yeah, this one sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like the sound of it.
Yep.
I am curious.
Yep. If her dream wins or her family.
Alrighty. And our honorable mention this week is
actually, I've got that one too. An oldie but a goodie out of Boom Studios. This is Klaus, How Santa Claus Began. This is actually the first one that Grant Morrison did. I don't remember it being collected before. I don't know, but I can't say that this is the first time it's been collected. But it will be issues 1 through 7. And this kind of set his tone for the whole series. It kind of gave us a different look of Santa Claus. Most people think, well, bad Santa Claus is Krampus. But no, he's He's a little different than Santa Claus, a little different than Krampus, but if you take the best parts from both of those, that is Klaus. So, it is a good story, though. It's kind of one of those what ifs. The town that I guess his ex flame lives in, the guy doesn't like toys, keeps everybody poor and depressed and downbeaten, and it kind of shows how Santa Claus kind of went in there and changed that for those kids. So, good story. This is, like I said, what makes me kind of reconsider my hate for Grant Morrison.
This is the love side of your love-hate relationship, anyway.
Right. This and Happy. So, but yeah, like I said, it is a good story, though. So you don't have to collect it. They've done the collecting for you. Most of those around Christmas time are usually 6 to 7 issues. So story moves pretty good. And like I said, this one was, when I was first thinking Grant Morrison and Santa Claus, oh my God, what's he going to do? I opened it up and the splash page was just this like psychedelic, trippy looking stuff and wolves like everywhere. It's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to like this one. So definitely his weird side kind of toned in really good story. Keeps you thinking.
And again, Dan Mora on art.
Yes. Amazing.
He's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No?
No.
Nothing here.
I do want to mention the passing of Ernie Coulon, who passed away a couple of days ago. He passed away on the 8th. He had been battling cancer for a while. He passed away at the age of 88. I want to say he's underrated, but once the news of his passing hit, if you're on social media and you follow any comics creator, they mention it. They mention him. They mention his works and all that. So maybe maybe not underrated. He may be not as well known, but he was well loved and appreciated. He co-created Iraq, Son of Thunder, and Amethyst, Princes of Gem World for DC Comics. He co-created Damage Control with late Dwayne McDuffie for Marvel. He co-created Grim Ghost for Atlas Comics back in the 70s. He did a lot of work for Harvey, including Casper and Richie Rich. Just a great artist. I remember some of my earliest checking out his work was the first 3 issues of the classic Battlestar Galactica. He was just everywhere, and I really dug his work. So I just want to pass along my condolences to his family and loved ones and the fans, and he will be missed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely a unique art style, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. All right. We'll go on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of their family. We will have a link in our show notes that you can check out some of our fellow podcasters there. Thank you, friends. I also want to thank our friends from Pattern Family on Twitter for resharing our links to our shows. We highly recommend you go check out some of their fine work. And the easiest way to do that is to go to Twitter and do a search, #PatternFamily, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, download that. By all means, download that episode and check them out. Thank you guys for your support. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our show. We'll have a link to some of their music that you can peruse and enjoy. Thank you guys. And finally, you, dear listener, we appreciate your support. We appreciate you downloading and listening to today's episode. We would love to hear from you. If you have any comments, questions, complaints, observations, suggestions, whatever, we would love to hear from you. Please, by all means, don't be shy and contact us. Come on. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us tab, and there is a contact form that you can fill out. By all means, follow us on social media. I already mentioned the Facebook page. You can follow us there. And by all means, if you want to contact us through there, that would be awesome. And obviously, we're on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @FellowshipGeeks. Follow us there. And if you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, please do. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you download our episodes, if you would please take a couple of moments and rate and review our shows, that would be awesome. Thank you. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, friends. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,